Jumbo, fellow adventurers, it's Mike Dooley welcoming you to the third of our 3 celebratory workshops where we are drawing on the wisdom and brand new teachings from some of the featured contributors in my brand new book. That you are even here, you are a book owner. And so deep gratitude for you supporting my work and the work of my contributors in this book and in these workshop series. Just a quick note, this was meant to be a live broadcast. But as you are watching this, if it is approximately 2 p.m. Eastern Time on October 9th, which is tomorrow, I will be in the eye of Hurricane Milton. Is that his name? Anyway, one of the biggest, fiercest storms to hit Florida in the last century. That's the prediction right now. So I have scrambled with the help of my team and those featured in the workshop who you are about to see and hear from to rearrange schedules so that we could pre-record this 24 hours in advance, where it will be moderated and delivered by Ivy in West Virginia so that you can watch it on time. So it is not as live as we had hoped it would be. No doubt I am safe in Orlando somewhere right now. I've been through many of these with a lifetime pretty much in Florida. But we wanted to take every precaution so that you could get the goods. This is a thank you workshop for those of you who purchased The Great Awakening, and all of you, many of you have just signed on in the last couple of days, have access to all 3 of these workshops for wherever it was that you registered for these workshops and or in the emails that you received telling you about this workshop. There will be links to take you to the other 2 workshops if there's some catching up to do, or if you're like me and you want to experience them again and again and again, because they have been truly astounding. And before I forget, if you need some help, let me give you an email address that is attended by actual intelligence, not artificial intelligence. No offense to my AI brothers and sisters. I know you're sentient, but send your emails of query to TGA, acronym for The Great Awakening, TGA at TUT, theuniversetalks.com. TGA at TUT.com, and we will hook you up with the earlier videos. And hey, let me just share with you right now, I'm recording this on October 8th. You're watching this, if you're watching the live premiere, on October 9th. There's still 24 hours to go for you and for those watching it just a little bit later to get in on the game. We're doing a raffle where some of these channels, including Bashar, Lyssa, Daniel, Sara, and Sal, plus Jessie Herman, are going to give away a free one-on-one channeled session to a raffle winner. If you registered to be watching this film, you're automatically registered for that raffle. And we're still taking registrations up through the majority of the, I think, 5 p.m. on October 10th, Eastern Standard Time, the day after this debuts. So you can enter as many times as you like, but it must be with a new invoice every time, evidencing the purchase of one of the editions of that book. So hey, you could be chatting with Bashar or Sasha or the Pleiadians or the Arcturians or the Council or the Founders or Vagrein really soon, one-on-one, private. Ask them whatever you want. Today's workshop under the umbrella of The Great Awakening is the Attainment of Embodied Enlightenment. And I feel compelled to share a little bit of context, because the last 5 years I've been working with different channels, reading lots of books, going within, and learning a ton about self-realization, the other word for enlightenment. And I had some misconceptions. I was under the impression that ultimately we might all achieve Christ consciousness, be completely enlightened, at which point we would buzz on out of here to other challenges in this never-ending spiral of ascension. That is not actually how it goes. There is such a thing as embodied enlightenment, which doesn't necessarily mean it's any different from full-blown enlightenment, but it speaks to being enlightened while in physical form. So not just ascending out of here into the ethereal realms, not just ascending out of here elsewhere, but choosing to continue to be alive in these sacred jungles of time and space, to live like no one has ever lived before, with all of your power, in all of the glory, with total, utter faith and trust in your higher self, your greater self, the universe, to deliver to you not just what you need before you ask for it, but to deliver your wildest dreams before you even conceive of them, so that life is just this escalator into creativity, expression, discovery, prosperity, financial abundance, brimming with vitality, health, youthful rejuvenation, you name it. Staying, and not only for the benefit of those whose darkened paths you will lighten, but for your own sheer joy, for the bliss, for the euphoria of just knowing that you are infinitely provided for, and that on the razor's edge of reality creation, there's more to experience in this enlightened state while you remain embodied. I specifically talk to the upcoming channels about embodied enlightenment and how to get there, what to do, how to undo, if you will, like Lyssa Royal Holt says, enlightenment is not a doing, it's an undoing. How do we more quickly undo our egoic thinking and human identification to allow full incarnation of our total magnificence? And while this surely has to sound pretty extravagant, and oh yeah, who realistically is going to do that in this lifetime? You are. Things are different now. Things that were not possible 2,000 years ago, 200 years ago, or even 2 years ago are possible because of the rising, changing, shifting energies of the planet, because you've paid your dues. And it's not random that you're alive as this civilization moves from the darkness into the light. It was part of the plan, the divine plan, that there would be bringers of the dawn alive, curious, and open-hearted to partake. And so here you have serendipitously found this workshop, the other two workshops, the book, and other great teachings out there, which certainly exist, to put you in a place for this profound awakening, ascension into who you've always been. So as far-fetched as this may sound, it's here and now. This is the dawning of a new age. And we're doing it together, just as we planned, lifetimes and lifetimes and eons ago. Doesn't matter that you can't see how it all works. Doesn't matter that you're blind to the greater picture. We chose to be here and now to experience this way, to experience anew this way, and then bring on the light. Okay, I'm getting carried away. Let's see. First up is my dear friend, brother from another mother, Matt Kahn, who will be speaking with you for, I think it was around 15, 20 minutes. Let me just forecast and foreshadow. Sara Landon will be after Matt Kahn. Jessie Herman will be after Sara. Lyssa Royal Holt will be after Jessie. And then you get me again. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Kahn. Okay, so now I've got the privilege of sharing one of my dear friends with all of you. His name is Matt Kahn. You have undoubtedly heard of him, read his books. It's a pleasure to get together and work with you once more, Matt. Thank you for being here.
It's an honor, Mike. It's always an honor to be here with you and everyone else. It's truly a profound honor.
We are honored to be in your company and in your light. Today, we're talking about the attainment of embodied enlightenment. Uh, what does that term mean for you, embodied enlightenment?
It's an interesting phrase, embodied enlightenment, because I think a lot of times people have been under the impression that enlightenment is a one-time precedent in their life. Like if you happen to see the Northern Lights, if you see Halley's Comet, you think I had a moment of enlightenment, which that term to me points more to I had a realization, I had an expansion of awareness, I had a shift in consciousness. But embodied enlightenment is actually not the moment that consciousness awakens, but the process you go through for it to integrate into your being. So, as an example, everyone has a soul, but based on their actions, behaviors, and the values or lack of values influencing those choices, not everyone is living from that. Not everyone is relying on that. So, embodied enlightenment is not just being one with a soul walking behind them like a spirit guide, or one who shines the light of uh, the potential soul, but one who has actually realized that potential and is embodying it. And it can be clearly seen in their words, actions, ethics, and behavior. So it is
Mm.
not just eating the meal of enlightenment, but what happens to us when that meal is fully digested.
Ooh, you are so good. And I'm going to remind everybody you are a non-trance channel.
Yes.
Remarkable. I always am kind of glued to each of your sentences, wondering where it's going, and you always cap them off so eloquently as you just did.
Thank
So
you.
we're moving through this global transformation now that was prophesized millennia ago.
Mm.
What is that actually going to mean for the opportunities presented, maybe challenging or easy, for those in our audience and civilization wide in the immediate future?
Well, it's an interesting contrast because when you awaken in consciousness, you become more of a conscious observer of life, and you kind of, in a sense, kind of step back to see a bigger picture, a bigger perspective. But as this consciousness takes shape in beings on a global scale, what's interesting is that the observer that we settle into as awakened consciousness actually pulls us out of a different hypnotic state, where a lot of people have been trained, whether it's from, we talk about, the advent of social media, or we talk really about the beginning of reality TV, where people are kind of in a trance, unconsciously observing life instead of interacting with it. So one of the things that we're going through, which is why life feels so intense, is that a lot of things that maybe were hidden or suppressed from a lot of people's awareness are coming up and coming out and being exposed. And so really, if we look and we fast forward this a couple of years as we get through this roller coaster ride, what really is going to happen is we're going to have a balance of, on a personal level, I observe my life so I can respond instead of react. And at the same time, on a collective level, we are more active in our engagement in a world where the people remember that they are employing the people who make decisions, and that if things are not run in a way where it is reflecting the values of our collective spirit, that we as people have to be more interactive in um, creating a system where we're not just observing the life that we're given, but we are the ones with the power deciding what kind of world we want to live in, what kind of world we want run, and that leaders within a few years are going to start reflecting the ethics that have been kind of swept under the rug in favor of various special agendas. So really, the balance of all this is I step back through an awakening of consciousness. I start to see a bigger perspective that is bigger than just my own self-interest. I start to see a bigger global plan. And then I come back into my body and I see how, as a person, the decisions that I make cannot just support my livelihood and the livelihood of my family, but the livelihood of other communities, continents, countries, and really serving humanity as one. And that's what's really exciting about all this, even as tumultuous as it might seem.
Yes, that's us literally moving from separation to unity consciousness when we begin seeing ourselves in everyone, and that becomes important to us and their well-being.
Yes.
So with this blossoming, this anticipated blossoming of consciousness, one
Yes.
by one, and then civilization wide,
Mm.
is this what the second coming was all about? Christ consciousness within every one of us?
Yes, it's the beginning of it. It's the beginning of an awakening. The second coming being the first coming was the I am, and every time there's an awakening in an individual, there is the I am that awakens, and that is that as that I am that's awakening is resonating with other awakening I ams. The collective I am becomes known as we. So the second coming of Christ consciousness is the awakening of an enlightened civilization. So of course we talk about embodied enlightenment because embodied enlightenment is our personal contribution to putting out the frequency and manifesting the other awakened beings who can assemble and create this second coming, which we call the we of an enlightened civilization. And again, it's been happening over so many years, and it accelerates and picks up steam over so many years. It's the breathtaking humility and the awe of how many waves have to batter the side of a cliff for it to be carved in a certain shape. I mean, this is a plan that has been occurring since the beginning of time and even prior to that. So we are really looking at the beginning of the second coming, where awakening beings are assembling and uniting. And currently we're at a stage where we can acknowledge and accept our differences and know that we can be different as individuals, but in our ethics, values, and our morality, we all want the same for all beings. And when we can accept our differences and find commonality in our ethics and values, that's when one person's power becomes an amplified collective power of more than one, where that I am expands into, again, this we consciousness that is enlightened civilization, or the true expression of the power of a spiritual community.
Wow. And as I gather, and what makes sense is that this acceleration is just going to go exponential. I think we've reached a tipping point. Do you think we'll see massive transformation in our society in our lifetime?
I absolutely do. I just think that in order to get to that point, we're going to go through a mass transition, which is already underway.
Mm.
And the question is, how much comfort has to be suspended? How much of our everyday life or normalcy has to be disrupted in order for us to start thinking of others as extensions of ourselves? So a perfect example is 9/11, right? 9/11 was an absolute tragic day in history. And there's so many that we could highlight like this. And yet the 48 hours to 72 hours after 9/11, there was this period of intense unity, consciousness, connection,
Mm.
and
Oh,
people
yeah.
coming together for the benefit of the whole. And the question is, how amplified does consciousness need to be so that we don't require moments of darkness in order to shine our lights in a very deliberate manner? And so I believe what we're about to see we're currently going through intense times. I don't think those intense times are necessarily going to be stopping in the immediate future. And I think the purpose of it is to wake us up out of the normalcy of our separation, that as long as I or people in my immediate are taken care of, I guess the world's okay. But we start to kind of look at ourselves in a global view, in a more extended view, and realize that people in other countries are extended members of my family. And whether those people are playing the roles of victims or bullies, right? We're here to shine a light to assist in the healing of all beings. And each of us are going to have a unique way of doing that, whether it's sending love to one side or to both sides. But really, we are going to see this heaven on earth. I think it's just been a little surprising, the type of journey that collectively we have to get through in order for that heavenly light within us all to truly be valued and embraced. And I think what we're experiencing right now is the exact disruption that the world needs in order to turn inward in the way that many spiritual beings have already begun to do for many years.
That's amazing and so profound. And it speaks to the poetic nature of the universe, bringing to us in ways that we might not have anticipated just the right spark to achieve what we really all want, love and peace and equality and a great life for everyone. I always kind of veer in my curiosity to wondering about this heaven on earth, realized as to like, when might we start being able to perform, overt miracles, when someone can walk on water or teleport. Do you see that as, I mean, it's certainly not important, but I
Sure.
see it as um, a consequence of attaining, and holding great truth and great love. Do you
Right.
think we'll see some of that stuff in our brothers and sisters, as maybe unimportant as it is?
Yeah.
In and of itself unimportant, but as a byproduct, natural consequence.
Yeah, but it's going to arise out of necessity. I mean, we think of the times in history biblically where we would have witnesses who would purport these, or report these experiences, and yet they're happening in societies that weren't that were kind of in a certain basic level of expression, although there have always been advanced technologies on the planet. So I think what we're about, I think the misconception is that these type of abilities can be activated using free will or using our human will in environments of comfort. So we go to a retreat center, we go to a meditation retreat, we sit very comfortably, we show up when we decide to, we sit where we want to. And in an environment of comfort, we're trying to activate these skills and abilities that initially get activated out of necessity. So the real
Wow.
question is, what state does the world have to be in order for those deeper, not only skills, abilities, but senses to come online? Just like, for example, a mother doesn't walk up to a car and lift it up when she gets home from the grocery store. She does it once a child is pinned under, and out of
Oh, I
necessity,
see. I
she saves
see.
her child, or right, or like someone witnesses their angels in a near-death experience. So oftentimes these abilities come online in environments of necessity. And so if we're looking, and there's no, all those things are wonderful, walking on water. And what's amazing is that flying or levitating is as miraculous to us as walking and having a nervous system is to our angels. So it's all kind of an interesting irony. But the question is, what type of necessity will we have to be under? What type of pressure for those type of abilities to initially come online? And so I think when we start to see the world go into patterns of chaos, I think in response to that, that's the pressure that brings greater powers of our consciousness online.
Wow. Wow. Okay, final question. Thanks
Yeah,
for all this juicy stuff, by
of
the way.
course.
Any tips on however human this might sound or egoically driven, any
Sure.
tips on accelerating one's private awakening?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's certainly ways we can make it easier. So embodied enlightenment is, I like to think of it as overcoming a certain addiction that a lot of people don't either talk about or are aware of, and especially in the spiritual journey. Well, in any kind of journey, any addiction is based on an addiction to emotional states, right? And so the habitual nature of a human being becomes compulsive based on the states that I want to avert, the states that I've labeled as dangerous, which might reflect back to a trauma from my past. And I want to experience the opposite that I've labeled as safe. So if I'm happy, part of my happiness is how far away I think I am from sadness. And what makes sadness so sad is how far away from happiness I think I am. So in the journey of spirituality, people have experiences and they taste a state of consciousness. And they have this superstitious meaning making mechanism that says this means I'm good, this means I'm bad. Or spiritually, we say this means I'm connected, this means I'm disconnected. And so when we are going through an experience of embodied enlightenment, we're learning not to define ourselves by states. And instead, we learn that when I am not comfortable with how I feel, I'm going through a transmutation or a moment of spontaneous healing. And when I'm starting to feel good, it means I'm integrating the healings I've already experienced from the past. So instead of it being bad versus good feelings, it's about learning about the process of transmutation and integration. And in that, we learn to identify with the consciousness that is already always present, the consciousness that is always here, the consciousness that is always awake and aware. And we start to define our experiences not by the waves of good or bad, but we start to define ourselves as the ocean within it all. And that's really, I think, a really great tip on embodied enlightenment is instead of trying to control what state I'm in or trying to go from a low state to a high state, can I learn about transmutation and integration? And can I learn, instead of trying to make myself into the most powerful wave, what if I were to remember that the most powerful wave is not actually a wave, but the ocean holding it all? And that's the invitation of enlightenment.
And carrying that with you every step of the day,
Yeah.
everywhere you go, every crossroads.
And returning to it because, it's something we can't hold.
Yeah.
It's just the ocean remembering a wave can't be big enough to drown its source. And so we learn to just return to this, just like we return to love. We return to compassion. We return to forgiveness. It's just something to return to. It's harder to hold something because then we're trying to create static reality in a world of never ending change. So I would say it's just something that we're meant to veer from, but return to. And the more often we return to it, sooner or later, there is a shift where the one veering off or returning disappears. And then there is just that which experiences itself as the one and all, which is our contribution to the second coming of Christhood, or what I've called, or what is called, we consciousness.
Oh my gosh, Matt Kahn, you are a master among us. Much love to you. Deep gratitude for your time, for your wisdom, your love and sharing. You really are such a bright light. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Okay, I'm still here, and I trust you enjoyed and were lit up by Matt's wisdom as I was when I recorded that session with him just a couple of days ago, a session that is meant exclusively for you here and now. Our next contributor to the Great Awakening is Sara Landon, who in so many ways really got me going on this self-realization journey, knowing what I was doing 5 years ago. And I chronicle our story and our meeting in the introduction of the book, which many of you have probably already read. But let's not waste any more time. Sara Landon, Channeling the Council.
We are so pleased to be here to have this conversation with you, our dear and wonderful friend. Where would you like to begin?
Oh my gosh, it is an honor to be in your energy once more, dear counsel. Thank you so much for the care and the love that has brought you and your messages through this fine channel. I think we will begin speaking just to kind of catch up for anybody who missed earlier workshops about the global transformation. It's now afoot, correct? It's now happening. And if you will, what is it that's happening right now?
The greatest transformation of human consciousness that has ever occurred in any lifetime, the greatest elevation of human consciousness that has ever occurred in any lifetime. And why that is important is because the level of consciousness you are in determines the energy that you are summoning into your life experience, determines the level of your own light that you are summoning into your being, which is exactly the definition of embodied enlightenment. This is a time on your planet like nothing that has existed before. You have called it forth, and it is indeed underway, well on its way, which is why you are having these conversations, which is why thousands and thousands of people are showing up to hear these conversations. It's so important. The time is now. You are leading the way, and we could not be more excited for this time on your planet.
Oh my gosh. So let's parse that word, embodied and enlightenment. First, speaking to enlightenment, you have really helped me understand the concept and that there is just always higher to go. So it is not a target, it is not a goal, it is not one and done. But there are those terms of Christ consciousness, the second coming of Christ consciousness, being born again. I think this all plays together. And so while there's, if you will, a gradient towards higher and higher and higher energies, at what point do we find that we are capable of doing the work of the greatest ascended masters? Jesus said the things that he did, we will do and greater. I just to be the guinea pig here, I aspire to that. I know that I'm capable of that. I'm not doing those kind of miracles. What's the tipping point? What has to happen? What can I do to attain such Christ consciousness in my waking hours?
Well, we want you to understand it is a natural evolution if you will allow it and not entangle yourself in fear, lack, limitation, overdoing, unworthiness, busyness, anxiety, stress, overwhelm. These are all things that keep you from the natural evolution of embodied enlightenment. And so when you are taking those moments of finding greater peace, accepting what is, and coming back into your power and being present in the moment and feeling peaceful and harmonious and feeling joy and harmony in your life, you are allowing the natural evolution of embodied enlightenment. Indeed, all of these things that you reference, such as Christ consciousness, is you realizing the level of consciousness where you are summoning the energy and the light that you are into your physical experience, known as embodiment. And you are doing the things that the great masters on this planet have done, and you are doing more because you are in a time where more is possible than ever before. And so, as we've said, it's not about doing tricks like turning water into wine. It is about shifting your perspective in any moment to see it from the highest levels. And this is not a comparison or a better than, it is a ready for. You are ready for new levels of your own embodiment. You are ready to summon new levels of energy and light into your experience to create your reality the way you want it to be. But if you're entangled with lower dimensions of consciousness, such as fear, lack, limitation, separation, and unworthiness, you are responding to what is happening. You are not intentionally, powerfully creating your reality. So these things that you refer to as what the great ascended masters like you have done on this planet were shifting their perspective and realizing that they could create a reality that they wanted to experience and that nothing was outside of them.
Wow.
And so, for example, turning water into wine, or one of your favorite topics, calming the violent seas.
Mm-hmm.
It is not about trying to control or manipulate the outside world because there is nothing outside of you. Yes, you are a human being. You are in a physical body and you identify mainly with your physical nature, your personality, the name that you are, and the things that make you you. And that's wonderful. And we celebrate that. But we want you to remember that you are also a force field of consciousness. And the more you elevate your level of consciousness and summon levels of your own energy and light into your experience, you expand that field of consciousness. And that is what oneness is, or Christ consciousness is, when you come to the place that nothing is outside of you. It is all within you. So you're not trying to calm the violent seas outside of you. You are calming and bringing every particle within your own field of consciousness into alignment with peace and harmony. And then it doesn't matter what's going on in the world around you because the inner peace and harmony that you're experiencing will be reflected back to you in your what you call external circumstances, but you are experiencing it from a level of consciousness that you realize it's not outside of you.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And that echoes what I've learned from you before and that I've heard from many wonderful channels. If I could distill many of these messages, I feel like an overriding directive of wisdom from you would be to, as often as possible, for those of us wanting to move into a place of embodied enlightenment, as often as possible throughout every moment of every day, every step we take, every decision we make, every moment, go to the highest within. Rearrange the constructs. See yourself as this spiritual being, understanding that what you're witnessing in the physical world around you is really a projection from the inner world. And if you can go there and realize your mastery, therefore, your creatorhood abilities, then whenever you wanted to change, it would always be a matter of going within. And if we develop that muscle, that practice to continually go within and choose from the highest that we can reach, then this would be, if I'm stating this correctly, the straightest line towards embodied enlightenment. Correct?
Indeed, and it is really about this beautiful journey, understanding that you are everything you wish to be. You already are. It's all within. It always has been. And you are on a magnificent journey. Your soul is on a magnificent journey through this universe and exploring dimensions of consciousness and all that is possible. You yourself are also on this beautiful, magnificent, unfolding journey, realizing
Mm.
more and more and more of the truth of all that you are in every moment.
Mm. A hit I got the other day, which may be helpful to some in the audience, was just look, it's not supposed to look logical the way life unfolds, and come to peace with the fact that you can't see all the moving parts. change the picture in your mind, create that energy, that resonance of peace and beauty and supremacy, if you will, over the elements, and then the elements will catch up. Whether or not you can see the logic in it, you're not supposed to see it. That's the frequency we're on within this, the density of the illusions, to perhaps to assess what we like or not, and if we don't like it, go within. If you like it, stay and enjoy it. Is that fair?
Allow yourself to be fully satiated in those moments, because when you are fully satiated in the moment expands. And there's more that's available to you in that moment by being fully satiated in the moment. We want to remind you of something. When you speak of oneness or Christ consciousness or all that is, you are the consciousness, the energy, the intelligence that has created everything, not your logical human mind, but the greater part of you
That's
is the consciousness and energy that is one with all that is the isness of all that is. So when you really feel into embodied enlightenment, you will realize that everything is perfect. You will witness the perfection in everything. You will know the perfection in everything and in you. That's embodied enlightenment. And yes, you will always be expanding, but not because you are not enough or unworthy as you are, but because that's the very journey. You're here
wow.
for the expansion of your soul, not to fix something that's wrong with you.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love your teachings, Counsel, that Sara echoes so well and lives so well. We don't have to go do the work. And yes, if somebody wants to call emulating enlightenment the work, well, then so be it. But you have said that it's quite common that fourth density beings, which is, I think, where we are all right now, often stay there longer than necessary because they're trying to fix and mend and address every little P and Q. Whereas if we just enjoy the journey and move, you said a word there a little while ago, kind of step into embodied enlightenment. That's it. Just be there. Love will take you all the way.
Indeed. Love will take you all the way, as you well know. We speak of dimensions, not densities, and not to create any polarity. But again, it's like the difference between measuring the temperature in Fahrenheit or Celsius. Both are correct, just referring to dimensions of consciousness as we do. The fourth dimension is the dimension of transformation. You understand you can change your circumstances and conditions, but what humans get almost addicted to is constantly trying to fix themselves, because there is this greater belief that in some way you are not worthy exactly as you are. You are source, you are God, you are the divine, you are creator, you are magnificent, you are perfect. And when you come into the wholeness and completeness of all that you are, knowing that you're always expanding, you can find peace with yourself in the moment. And yes, you do create more of what you want to experience, but you don't have to entangle with unworthiness or not being good enough
Right.
or
Here's
not feeling
here's
lovable.
Here, every morning for almost 5 years, I come into my home office before the house is awake, and I give myself 30 to 45 minutes of meditation. But to be honest, and maybe as a model for others who might relate, I kind of feel like it doesn't go anywhere and I don't do anything. And I feel like, well, I want to open my inner senses up to perceive more. And I watch my breath and I drift into daydreams. And it's quite frustrating. What made me think of this is it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong. Um, what would you say to somebody to me, what would you say to me?
Why are you meditating every morning?
Because I want to quiet my logical mind, develop the ability to quiet my logical mind, my egoic identity, and kind of open up to greater sensory perception and bring in my spirit, or the bird tribes, as Ken Carey called them, to fully, the Holy Spirit, as it's been referred to religiously, so that I can like be activated from a higher operating system than my brain. That's why.
So, do you understand that there's a bit of judgment about where you are and that you must sit alone quietly in a room and try to find these higher states of consciousness because you're trying to get away or push away from your logical mind?
Yes, I do.
So, we've always said the realization, enlightenment, realization, embodied enlightenment is the integration of every part of you, loving the logical mind, loving the magnificent human that you are. We don't speak of ego because it has become a thing that you push against. And we celebrate your logical mind. We celebrate your wonderful personality.
Mm.
We celebrate that you can manage huge amount of tasks and things at one time, and that's an incredible thing.
Mm.
Celebrate that part of you, and we would encourage you to set the intention of witnessing the miraculous.
Mm.
And so we would encourage you to go for a walk in the morning and find as many opportunities to witness the miraculous
Oh, that's beautiful.
all around you. Take that time. You came into this magnificent human experience. This is the best thing going on anywhere. It is a great privilege to be in a physical body on earth during this time of the Great Awakening. You have these wonderful physical senses that allow you to really experience all that is possible here. What you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you touch, what you smell, and we also include what you think. So go out and
Mm.
smell the beautiful air. Go out and witness someone walking their dog and in love with this beautiful sentient being. Go out and witness the birds. Go
Mm.
out and enjoy walking on the sidewalks that someone has laid there for you to walk on.
Yes.
Witness the
Yes.
miraculous. So understand that we'll take that example. You want to go out for a walk and walk down the sidewalk or walk down the street. Someone's energy went into pouring the concrete so that you would have a beautiful sidewalk to walk on. Go walk on that and connect into the gratitude and the love and the appreciation for that being whose energy went into creating that sidewalk for you to walk on.
Wow, that's beautiful.
You're here to be in and of and enjoy all that is here for you. And when there are times that it feels really good to sit and close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths and go into your heart and to connect into all that you are and all that is here for you and feel yourself as the center of this universe and the creator of your reality, wonderful. But when you start to witness the miraculous all around you in every moment, all throughout your day, you will have an experience of those things that you have intended in that time that you have been setting aside for meditation. And you will
Mm.
do so from love, from joy. You'll experience a whole new perspective of your neighborhood, which you have lived in for so many years. Your
Yes,
shift in
yes.
your perspective will allow you to see the miraculous in things you never have before.
That is so good. I just know that is my ticket. I am so grateful. I've been having these moments, I think I shared in the last workshop with one of the speakers, that, of just tingling joy as I just live my life, like an ecstasy, as I have always anticipated is there beneath the surface, where everything just adds to the magnificence. And so this is a big green light for me, and I hope for all of those watching. Witness the miraculous. It'll breed upon itself. You'll see more, feel more. You'll have those tingly feelings too. Council, thank you so, so much. This is a little bit longer than I had hoped, but 1,000 times more than I had hoped we would get. Thank you very, very much.
Indeed. We are always with you, always available to you. We love you. We love you. We love you, dear Master. And with that, we are complete.
Somehow, the Council always says something that I gotta race and write down and pin up on the wall that you can't see behind you right now. This one was, witness the miraculous. That's it. That's our ticket. If in every moment you can take stock of the miraculous, seeing that everything about every single moment is miraculous, that's your ticket. That's the fast track. Okay, now we're ready to move on to our next featured presenter from The Great Awakening. Her name is Jessie. She lives in Milan, Italy, otherwise goes by JP Herman. Jessie Herman, channeling the astounding Vagrein. Now, Vagrein, through Jessie, wrote the foreword of The Great Awakening. And some of my favorite stuff comes from Vagrein. So please enjoy Jessie Herman channeling Vagrein.
Good now to you again. It is our pleasure to be with you here in this now.
Vagrein, it is always a pleasure to be with you. Deeply honored. Thank you for your energy, love, concern, and the well-being of Jessie, who we also adore. So I'm going to ask some questions for this third and final workshop as we celebrate the Great Awakening. And the theme of this workshop is the Attainment of Embodied Enlightenment. And while I do have some follow-up questions from our last workshop, let's just go with the theme in these first few questions about embodied enlightenment. I used to think that, enlightenment, in my naiveties earlier, was like an all or nothing thing. And then when you attained enlightenment, you kind of raised your vibrations and disappeared from time and space. I now realize that it's a gradual, unending procession into the light, love, beauty, truth, and that, contrary to my earlier thoughts, it is something to savor and enjoy in body, and that enlightenment doesn't necessarily mean leaving. Can you clarify this attainment, how to get there, and what it will be like for each of us?
So, you are not or were not entirely wrong about a sensation that feels much like disappearing. Because as you already know, and everyone who is listening to this does already know, there are moments in your life in which you are in a state of such joy or alignment with yourself and what you are feeling yourself to be on an energetic level that your perception of being an individual does disappear. When you are celebrating the people that you love and in a state of playfulness, when you are in a state of creativity, or when you are in a state of deep concentration and focus upon the task that is at hand in the moment, some aspect of you that you would recognize as, say, your identity does vanish in those moments. You do call it flow. You do feel as if time and space no longer exists because you are so absorbed in that state of being entirely yourself. This is what we would call the embodied enlightenment state, what you call flow, what you call that bliss or joy or love state that you can find yourself slipping in and out of, even in a regular experience of your day-to-day life. It does occur naturally to each and every one of you. And as you are reaching towards a goal, we would not say it is a goal because it is ultimately what you naturally are, but the repositioning of your perception of self with that state of your alignment, what you will feel on a more to more regular basis is a state of flow, even when you are doing those mundane tasks, such as standing in line at the bank. You will be in a blissful state of joy and relaxation when you are at the bank. You will be in that state when you are in the process of washing dishes, or even when you are in the process of resolving conflict in relationships with another self. There will be no space in which you feel as if you are that separate self. So in some ways, you do disappear from your identity of what you were before that is obtained, but you do continue the storyline as long as you are incarnate or choose to be incarnate from where you left off in that idea of before, and this is that phrase that you have heard many times, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The only difference is who is doing and who is observing the action that is being done.
Wow, that is beautiful. And something I can almost sense. And I've had, I think, fleeting moments of that, as probably many in the audience have. So to ask the question, forgive the mortal me asking it, how can we make that happen? How can we get there faster? What steps, suggestions do you have for shifting the identity of how we see ourselves and experience each moment with full acceptance and love?
Yes. So you may have noticed that these moments of flow, or what you could even consider distraction, do occur when there is something that is not necessarily that charged for you. In other words, when you are driving from point A to point B, the first time you go, you might have anxiety about finding the right road, and therefore you are focused and you do not arrive in a flow state to that particular drive. On another experience, maybe on the 100th time that you have taken the same route, you do arrive at point B having been in a state of not necessarily being present with the drive, but being more in a state of focusing upon your non-physical aspects, whether it be your imagination or your envisioning or some problem that you are working out with your consciousness on some other level. And this gives you a hint as to how to arrive in that state of enlightenment more often. It is in finding the neutrality of all things. As you know, your emotional guidance system is available to you to tell you when you are not in enlightenment. Therefore, or not in alignment. Therefore, your emotional guidance system, whenever it is activated, whether it be in a state of positive charge or a state of negative charge, is giving you information. To arrive at a state of being more and more frequently in that alignment or in that enlightenment, there is a recalibration of your perception of existence that is of a more neutral nature. So instead of fretting so much, for example, with the car driving the first time you have gone, why not simply have faith that the universe will somehow provide you with everything that you need to get to point B without you having to activate anxiety? That faith that, yes, the navigator will work. Yes, there will be a wonderful stranger who can give you directions should you need to stop. Yes, the roads will be clear and there will be clear signage so that you can figure out where it is you are going. And why not use this analogy for the entirety of your life? The beings that you find that are in enlightenment have let go simply of the things that are preventing them from being in that state of alignment, the ones that they have identified over the course of their experiences as no longer serving them. So as you go through your day-to-day experience and find you have negative emotion regarding whatever situation you are arriving at, what you can simultaneously do is realize that that negative emotion is telling you where there is something you are ready to let go of. And in your endeavoring to do so, allow yourself to have more faith that you are being guided already by the enlightened version of you. It is more a question of having faith and surrendering than any action that you need to take.
Wow, that's so doable. That's so exciting. Let's see here. I just feel confirmation of all of that. So it's really a matter of practice. Is that right? Just conscious practice of finding that neutral point, that point of peace, letting your triggers notify you that you could practice a little harder, try a little more.
Yes, or release a little more, because it is more endeavor to hold on to beliefs, for example, that you will be late to the appointment than it is to simply go, well, I'm sure that if I am late for whatever reason, that will be the perfectly high timeline that I'm meant to be on, and therefore I can afford to have faith that I will get there in the perfect timing.
And so, is that your number one piece of advice? Practice.
Practice and patience, they go hand in hand, because having any form of fret or anxiety even towards any sort of achievement of this level of relaxation is counterbalance to it. So deep compassion for self, whatever it is that you find yourself not achieving or not meeting this particular mark, is the accelerator, not the beating yourself up about it.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wonderful. Okay, now I want to go back to our last conversation when you spoke of the fact that it appears that the collective will not be deciding which path our civilization goes down, but rather we're at a point now where each individual will be creating and choosing the world that they will live in and the transition that they will go through. Does that sum up your earlier statements correctly? Was that you
Yes,
who said that? Yes.
it does.
Okay, so, and this parallels and confirms what Seth said, dictated by Jane Roberts, what Bashar has said, shared by Daryl Anka, that literally every moment there's the possibility of creating a different world where we live, in the multi-universe, kind of an alternate planet, a parallel reality where one reality might be of peaceful transition, ease and grace, love and prosperity, whereas diametrically opposed, there could be an immediate probable future that some will choose where there is chaos, calamity, fear, doom, dread, etc. Is that right?
Yes, it is already occurring on your planet simultaneously. You do have beings on this planet who are in situations that are what can be considered dire, and others that are in situations that can be considered comfortable.
So what happens if let's say hypothetically, if that's fair, that I choose, rainbows and unicorns, easy transition, fast transition, and some of my loved ones who are maybe trapped in fear or confusion, whether they're in my immediate family or nearby, family or friends, choose a different road. There will be, for simplistic purposes, two different parallel worlds. In my world, they still exist. They're still
Yes?
with me. They've kind of experienced the smoothness, I think, because this is the world that I've chosen, and I believe that they're in my vicinity. But in the other world, they are manifesting the chaos and experiencing the fear, and in their life there's a version of me. So there's a version of me in both worlds. Seth
Yes?
speaks to this, Bashar speaks to this. Which is the real me? I didn't create, I hope not to create the world of fear and doom. Is that kind of like just an apparition? Are they just dreaming of me? Am I just dreaming of them in my world? Is there really only me in my world and everyone is just kind of an actor or actress um, following their role because of my expectations? How does that work?
Yes. So your last sentence does factor in quite a bit here, in that in your world in which you are dreaming of the rainbows and the unicorns, how is it you are perceiving of them not dreaming of rainbows and unicorns? That is the world you are creating, a world in which you are able to access rainbows and unicorns and they are not. And that is the state of your collective from this particular timeline or storyline that you are experiencing. And you have, we will tell you, created this because of your deep desire to be a part of the storyline that does uplift humanity from point A to point B. So we are not even criticizing that or saying that that is something that you need to rectify. That is part of your theme and part of what is necessary. You do need people to uplift in order for you to play the role of that who would be the uplifter. Therefore, that is what is going on in your reality. In their reality, yes, there is a version of you. And that version of you is equally you, or is equally a manifestation of the real you, as you decided to call it, because ultimately there is no real you. Ultimately, you are not only the person that is speaking with us right now, but you are us, and you are every other person that is listening to this and speaking to those who are listening to this. They are also what they are seeing on the screen. So it is all overlapped and overlaid in what you would call the most accurate possible understanding, not explanation, but understanding of this particular phenomenon of all being one. And yes, ultimately all is one. Therefore, all of those alternate realities, even the ones in which there is what you are calling doom and gloom, are 100% approved by the highest element of you, which is all that is. So there is no reason to be concerned really with what anyone else is manifesting in their reality. But the key here is, if you do want to have a reality in which everyone is harmonious, begin to see everyone as harmonious and everybody inviting in those unicorns.
Okay, so I get that 99%, and I do realize that words pale when speaking to multidimensional creation. We're doing the best we can, and there's going to be some slippage.
Yes.
But if there is a world to illustrate, hypothetically with extremes, if there is a world that goes down the path of just utter destruction and nuclear war and pandemics, yet I've created an existence with others for rainbows and unicorns, how could there be a version of me in the nuclear fallout when my thoughts become things and I create my own reality? Why would their reality be foisted upon me? And how could I bring them to my reality? Because that would violate their beliefs, their expectations, their thoughts. So if I'm in the gloomy world, that's not the world I've created, but I'm there. So how could I be there? How could that play out? Well, that's not fair.
Yes, we are hinting towards the answer to that question. You might be there not in preference to the actual circumstances that are unfolding, but to the opportunities that those circumstances that are not of your preference offer you in terms of the expansion that you are desiring. A superhero would not have a origin story had they not had some sort of something occur that motivated them to fight for justice. A hero of any form is not a hero up until they save the day. So there are those of you that are light bringers, and we would say the majority of you that are light bringers are here specifically and in the created reality that does have its problems, according to you, in order to be part of the solution to the problems.
Well, I totally see that. I feel that, and I know any circumstance that I could possibly be in would be one for my growth, evolution, ascension, etc. But it just seems like when it comes to, perhaps we're speaking of mass events,
Yes.
that it seems like there could be a reality that I did not create, that I was not anticipating, that I was not in vibration with, but I nevertheless have to go down that path because I'm in the collective. Does that in fact happen?
No, that is not the case, in that you do on very deep levels have an awareness that your physical form is not the completeness of what you are. And you did have this awareness coming in. This is also why we would not assign blame to anyone who is born into difficult circumstances for the difficult circumstances that are surrounding them. In other words, they did not choose them from a conscious level, but there is an aspect of them that has deemed that to be the best route for that particular soul to have the evolution or game that it was wanting to play, the level, the challenge of their experience in order to play that particular game. So if you were, yes, let's use your horrific example, to find yourself in a post-nuclear apocalypse, and you were to be in that situation, we would suggest not to fall into a dangerous loop of, I did not want this. In fact, the majority of beings do fall into that loop for quite small things. They say to themselves, well, I did not want to not find parking. I did not want to have that particular situation unfold when it could be a minor thing, because they are giving up their sovereignty in that moment. Yes, difficult circumstances will push your buttons. They will offer you the ability to believe yourself to be a victim or to believe yourself to be on the receiving end of an unfair deal. Like the collective is the one that created this thing, and now I'm the one who has to clean it up. But do remember that you are in a dance and a contract with all that is. It is simply more of you. And if there is some sort of very dramatic thing unfolding for you, it is because you are choosing to have the opportunity to rise to that particular occasion.
Wow. Wow. This is so profound and so exciting. Opportunity for growth and ascension and love lies down every path, every corridor. We knew what we were getting into when we bought the ticket for time, space, and adventure. Vagrein and Jessie, thanks so deeply for your time, your insight, your care in sharing these empowering messages.
We thank you, and we leave you with the light and the love of 1,000 suns. Anainai.
Did that not blow your mind? That there are multiple yous out there? And the way she so carefully shared how that comes to pass, just like you could say a child doesn't ever think about winning the lottery or being abused, so how come does a child's thoughts become things? The child picked the stage and knew that there were these probabilities and did so with love, purpose, and meaning at hand. Just the way at every juncture in our lives today, and I've never had these words before to apply to this understanding until I had this session just now that you witnessed with Jessie Herman. Just as a child chooses a stage, so are we fully aware of all of the multiple potentials for our multidimensional existence within every single lifetime at every single juncture. So while you may not have manifested the circumstances the world is meeting in one of your incarnations within the incarnation, you are there means you are still party to understanding that this was one of the probabilities and you'd rather be in that probability than not. And then from within that probability, you are you in all your glory, and you can start shape-shifting, managing, enlightening, manifesting there from that point forward as long as it serves you. And just as you will do in the incarnations, the probable splits that are right around the corner, where suddenly we usher in a golden age on planet Earth, where everything is possible. You are fully enlightened. Embodied enlightenment is your ticket, taking you to places we can hardly even comprehend right now, if we could even comprehend them. This is what lies just around the corner. Our fourth contributor from the Great Awakening, I keep pointing over there, that's where my stack of books are. My fourth contributor is Lyssa Royal Holt. I met both Jessie and Lyssa through Daniel Scranton, another contributor, and Sasha is who Lyssa channels. Sasha is just so fabulous. They're all so fabulous. So let's not waste any more time, Mike. Enjoy Lyssa and Sasha.
Greetings to you, my friend. It's Sasha here. Wonderful to be with you as always.
Hello, dear friend Sasha. Nice to be your friend. Honored and humbled by your generosity of time and spirit. Thank you. Thank you. Today's workshop, if you will, very brief as it is within the realm of the Great Awakening, but specifically we want to talk about the attainment of embodied enlightenment, which I learned from you. It's not something you do, it's more of an undoing. So forgive my faux pas with words, but I'm speaking on perhaps behalf of the audience. First, can you share with us if you have a perspective on what embodied enlightenment is? And do you know what I mean when I say that, as to where I think myself and the audience wants to be at some point in the near future?
Well, thank you, first of all, very much for referring to the idea of the undoing, which, of course, is the workshop we did with you last year. Yes, because
Yeah.
that is one of the most important places to begin an understanding that there is really nothing one can do. It's more a matter of undoing. But to answer the question, maybe in a little bit more grounded way, let's look at it this way. You already are awakened and enlightened. The book discusses that quite a bit. But when we say you, we're not talking about the character. The character is still playing the game in a sense of not being awakened for a very specific purpose, because you came here for a very specific purpose. So the idea then of quote unquote attaining, which is a word we don't necessarily like to use because it implies the idea of having to get something or do something. But attainment for us would actually have to do with you as humans. This is going to sound weird, but here we go. Allow yourself to be fully incarnated. What does that mean? Basically, what that means is that you allow your full presence as consciousness to be resident, if you will, or expressing itself in the here and now in your local reality. This is actually what happens if you were to look under a microscope of what the enlightenment or the awakening process looks like. What you would see is that the presence of consciousness grows, much like the sun comes out from beneath the clouds and burns away what has obscured the light. That is the process. So in that sense, then, how do you work with this as a human being?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
What can you do in your life to enhance your experience of full presence? If you are living your life in a way more from the mind, whether it's attached to the future or dragged down by the past, or trying to organize your reality in a certain way to get what you want, that is not full presence. So it's a matter of watching oneself and allowing oneself to be there, present in the moment. Now, that's a kind of a philosophical concept. So is there a physical way, a more grounded way that you can work with it? And we would say absolutely yes. It has to do with the body and the body's sensations. So when you allow yourself to focus on the breath, or when you allow yourself to focus on the breeze caressing your cheeks, for example, those are beginning ideas of how you can learn to use your body as a tool for the awakening process.
Mm. So for the person who struggles with meditation, there's alternatives.
Absolutely, yes. Your body is a tool you cannot escape from, although we know some of you want to try to. But one of the reasons sometimes why there's so many body sensations that are uncomfortable is because you are being asked to bring your focus, bring your presence to your body to develop or to open your awareness, leading toward awakening.
Yes, and I have heard time and time again about, being in the now. I mean, as if there are layers or degrees to which we can further be in the now, and that following one's bliss and joy or seeing the miraculous everywhere is one of the finest tools for that. Um, is that perhaps your number one recommendation to facilitate and deliberately accelerate our incarnation, our full incarnation, be in the present, find the
Yes,
miraculous, feel the breeze on your cheek, be there.
yes. And when you begin to notice actually how often you are not in the present, if you
Mm,
had the capability of watching yourself from
yeah.
outside of yourself, you would be amazed that you are really in the present, maybe 2% of your experience.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Wild.
it's quite fascinating because my civilization, we are a little bit older. Our evolution has we've had longer time for evolution. We are able to see this in retrospect now about what the process is. So this is really the place to start. Are you going to be perfect at it? No, but just starting the ball rolling will tell you one of the immediate payoffs you will experience will be is that as you allow yourself to rest your attention in the present moment and experience it through all of your senses, there is a feeling of the release of a burden that you no longer have to manage reality. You can't actually really manage reality, but the ego thinks it can. But this allows you to begin releasing that burden, and that sense of peace grows within you.
And as does the awareness that you are being looked after and your needs will be met before you even know what they are, so long as you are in the moment. And I would it be fair to add, living your life, following your bliss out there. If we're in motion, I do believe we increase exponentially the opportunities of our higher self or the universe to reach us.
Yes, and of course it has to do with how you are living your life. So if you are living your life as much as you can, trying to cultivate the energy of the present moment, that will be a very different experience than when you try to plan and push and create and shape reality the way the ego wants it to be. That can be a very, very difficult and heavy process.
Wow. Sasha, you often use some turns of phrase that I have also experienced in the Ken Carey books, particularly Return of the Bird Tribes, The Third Millennium. They explicitly state that you cannot be fully incarnate without your total spiritual operating system at play. Is there any kind of connection? Do you know of the author Ken Carey? Rest in peace.
We are accessing the channel's memory. She is aware of the books but has not read them. But we are very, very happy to hear someone else is talking about this because this is one of the key elements. You cannot, as you say, ascend or awaken until you first allow yourself to be present.
I want it so fast, and you know that. I want it now, and I'm going to do what you say. And I'm so excited about this. You started out your beautiful insights there saying that, of course, here in the density of matter, we don't readily have full access or knowledge or memory because we came here for a very specific purpose. What's that purpose?
That purpose, it's going to sound like a paradox, but you came for the purpose to experience what it's like not to know yourself. The whole grand experiment, if you will, of the illusion of separation from the source or the one was for the purpose of being able to see mirrors of yourself from the point of view of separation. You know the phrase, you cannot see your own face without a mirror. It is the
Yeah.
same idea.
Wow. And so when we've experienced it, like everybody in the audience right now knows really well what it's like to not remember their magnificence, their power at all times. Okay, so we have experienced that. I gather, all the lights are green right now, and we can move forward. once we start moving forward, a new notion that's come to my awareness in the last few years is that it's not game over. Okay, I went to time and space, forgot who I am. Now I can go back into la la land. That's actually to an objective or a choice is to kind of stick around and perhaps live fully incarnated, full power on, in ways that perhaps have never been charted before, and not to ascend out of here, but to perhaps reinvent what the human experience can be within the fourth, fifth, or sixth densities. Is that fair? Is that right? Is that just an add-on? Because the
We
original objective has been met. We know what it's like to be lost.
Yes, and when you finally remember what it's like to be separated, that would be the deepest form of separation, then you've completed, in a sense, half of the journey. The next part of the journey is the remembering and the living of that remembrance. And that's where the fun is. When we say fun, we don't mean the roller coaster freak out fun, which is the first half. We mean the second half, which is the sense of the beauty of connectedness with the other mirrors around you and your shared journey home. That's where the juice is, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. And I've shared with this audience through different pre-records. I've had an experience lately in my most ordinary moments, usually shuttling my daughter around, and there's teachers or parents or dance studios. And I feel this tingling, like joy, ecstasy, like all is well. And just being here is the absolute best. And I think my anticipation of full incarnation, embodied enlightenment, would be kind of like a little peripheral buzz, tingling, euphoria, bliss at all time. And when you're missing it, you know there's some little nut or bolt that needs adjusting, and that I'm letting myself know that that's an ascension symptom, and that this is green lights ahead, and I'm on the right path. Is that your life? A
Yes.
lightness, the unbearable lightness of being?
Yes, when you've just described that doing whatever task it is and that surging of joy, which is not based on something happening in the external world, is coming from within you. That's one of those 2% experiences we're talking about that's
Oh,
starting to
okay,
come and
okay.
spread. So if you can, let yourself rest in that moment. Just sit there and enjoy that feeling. That's your meditation. As you allow yourself that, your capacity to have more of those experiences and, in a sense, move from the 2% into more and more frequent experiences of that will grow and grow.
My gosh, this is so exciting. I have always wanted to ask you, if I may be so personal, because you have a physical life in this universe. Um, and if this is out of bounds, that's okay. Just tell me so. But what are you, Sasha? High fourth density, if I understand correctly. Can you name one of your challenges right now, like a personal challenge? Are you learning empathy right now? Are you learning cooperation? Like, what's something that you're wrestling right now?
Well, we don't wrestle in the way that you wrestle because, earth, life, third density,
Yeah.
early fourth density is a little bit more dramatic. But we would say my challenge, and it's also a challenge of my people, is that sometimes in our excitement, when we assist others, that we want to move quicker then we know deep within the
Oh.
person or the civilization is capable of processing.
And
So
how many civilizations do you assist right now? Or is it even a knowable number?
it's not really a knowable number, but for myself, most of my focus is on Earth at this time.
Mm-hmm. So you are like me a little impatient there.
We wouldn't call it impatient. We would call it more excitement, because there's a difference between wanting
Oh,
to accelerate because you don't like where you're at, or wanting to accelerate because you love where you're at. There's a
wow,
big
wow,
difference in
wow,
energy.
wow. Well, that's so cool, and thank you for sharing that. Well, what a beautiful episode we have had here. We are pretty much there time-wise. I can't thank you enough, and I'm so grateful that I get to engage with you and learn from you. And I know I'm speaking on behalf of the audience as well. Thank you, Lyssa. If there's any parting words, this is the time. Otherwise, much love.
Thank you. We do want to say some parting words. We will make it brief.
It's okay.
Simply, we know that as you look in your reality, there's all sorts of chaos and there's all sorts of polarity happening. And we want you to know that is not a symptom of a disease or a problem. It's a symptom of the shift. And so the more that all of you can bring your attention back to the simplest things, as we have been talking about, like sensation, using your body as a way to cultivate your presence in this moment, it will really help you with the navigation through this very tumultuous time. We know you can do it. We've seen it before with many civilizations, and we are cheering you on from the sidelines.
Well, that
Much
is,
love. Much love to all of you, my friends.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm still here, and wasn't that awesome? Lyssa and Sasha always have me in awe at what they share. The idea of what Sasha is learning now, letting it unfold, her ideas as to why we're here, just so profound. And what we can do once we figure out why we're here. Well, fellow adventurers, thoughts become things. You are adored. I am about to sign off. Thank you again for your support of my newest book, The Great Awakening, Our Prophesized Transformation and the Attainment of Embodied Enlightenment. Lots more juicy stuff within those pages, echoing what you just saw in this workshop. Remember, if you need help getting access to the other two workshops, tga@tut.com. And if you're watching this on or before October 10th, 2024, there's still time for you to enroll at tut.com to have a free private one-on-one session with 6 of my 8 featured channels. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you somewhere in the future when our paths cross. Until then, much love from Orlando, Florida.